Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Avanel, Avalanche, whatever. Anyway, and my disco ball that helps me when I'm talking about stuff that's not my favorite. So, like when I'm not talking about clown or dance, those are my favorite. Anyway, and I also have my poi for a little added boost, and I can hypnotize you into believing whatever I say. Just playing. Don't believe everything I say. I don't even believe everything I say. Anyway, so disillusionment. Disillusionment, I think, gets a bad rap because so often when I talk about disillusionment, people are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss." Like, I'm so sorry for the loss of your illusion. I'm like, that's all right. I'm really kind of okay with not believing the lies anymore. But disillusionment's hard. That's why it gets a bad rap, right? Because the illusion sometimes is really nice. It's really something that we feel like we can, I don't know, be happy with, or sometimes it's about ourselves. And when you become disillusioned about yourself and you're like, oh, I always thought I was such a good person. I guess I'm not, like those kind of things. Like, but if I continue thinking forever that I'm a good person when I'm not, I can't do anything about the not, because I'm like, well, why? What would I fix? So anyway, but disillusionment can lead to being jaded, which is a delicate balance. I walk the line, y'all. I'll be real. I dip over into jaded every now. 50-50. Let's say it's really about 50-50 right now. But anyways, that's because I'm still in the process of disillusionment. There's still some things that I keep thinking, okay, now it's been revealed. Now the illusion's gone. And then I'm like, oh no, there was more. Anyway, but here's the thing, is when we're living in the illusion, we don't actually have a lot of things that we can do. We don't have things we can change, help, or heal, because it's an illusion. And so we can work and try and push and everything, and it's all for nothing. I already have your attention. I'm not clearing my throat for that reason. Anyway, and if I don't have your attention, oh well, because I only have a little bit of my own attention. But anyway, so disillusionment is difficult because it involves grief, and grief is something that is it's hard to sit in. It's painful, but you have to like sit in it. Like, there's some things that you can like microwave, right? But there are some things that you have to use the slow cooker, and grief is one of those slow cooker things, right? And when people are uncomfortable sitting through grief, and kind of, because grief involves like embracing your new reality, like going through the pain of letting go of what you thought was, or of something lost, and kind of bracing yourself maybe for what's coming, like the new reality, and kind of, like, I don't know. But anyways, so when we're uncomfortable sitting in grief, we will search for new illusions, right? Because that's easier than going through the grief. But the grief is part of what prepares us for the next phase. And grief is part of the transformation. And so if we try and bypass it, then we are going into another kind of illusion. We're maybe trading one illusion for another illusion. And disillusionment is really like when you get to the core of, there are things that we don't really have control of. There are things that are just gonna suck. And sometimes you just gotta lean into it and find the bright spots, like, because sometimes there's not a lot of them. I always, actually recently I was talking about some of the stuff, like, because I do all this, like the light up stuff, the imaginative stuff, the dance, just trying to be as creative as possible, because for me right now, with what's going on with my physical health and mental health and everything, that's where I get some, I guess, relief, or I don't know, it's part of what fills my tank right now, right? But I was describing it, I'm like, that's like my manna. That's like the thing that I get that's very special from God right now, that helps me get through this time, that can look like sometimes from the outside, from other people, I'm sure that it seems like, oh wow, that must be really wonderful. That's It is. It's magical and it's wonderful, and it's for this season because this season has been really, 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 really hard. And but the hardest seasons, actually, I think that isn't that what they say, like if you're down in a deep enough hole, right? Even if it's totally broad daylight outside, if you're down deep enough, you can see the stars, right? And it's like sometimes those dark times are the times that if you're willing to admit it's dark and not trying to keep like pretending it's all light and you can see everything, but you're just like, yep, you know what? It's dark. It's right now is dark and it sucks and it's hard. Then you get those times of seeing the stars. And I don't know what the transition is going into at this point. There's still so many unknowns, and I'm just kind of taking it a day at a time and doing the next thing that I know how to do. But the disillusionment part of it is, disillusionment is also something that has to be guarded sometimes because it's really tempting to find a new illusion sometimes. Especially when I'm really feeling jaded, you know. And I think that for me, I've started to recognize that anything, because I mean, I'm talking like illusions like, you know, oh, this thing will help, or that thing will help, or maybe this will make it go away, or, you know, go see this doctor, or try this new therapy, or do this, that, or the other thing, and blah, 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 blah. And I found that my guideline here, that I have decided, because I have paid more money for supplements and, you know, oh, well, try doing this thing and try these things on your feet and try having a special magical pillow. Actually, they didn't offer me magic one. I might have taken that. But just, you know, just they give you kind of all these things. Oh, try this, try. And then I've done things where I've changed my whole diet and cut things out and, you know, no sugar, no this, no that, and everything's evil. And, you know, and then I started to find, man, you know, I still, like a lot of those things, you do all this stuff and then you feel great for a little bit and you're like, yay. And then it goes back to kind of not being great. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, where did I mess up? And I started going, you know what? I think that's the problem, is I am still under the illusion that I have control over things that I don't have control over. And so for me, that has been the big thing, is like embracing the fact that I don't have the control I think I have. I have, there are things that we can do, and there's things that, how do I explain it? So, for me, I believe that there are things that are brought into our lives to put us down in that dark hole, to see the stars, because what we're seeing around us, the illusions, the things that we are doing, are distracting us from what's important. And so sometimes, because I am a very spiritual person, and I believe that there are things that are divinely orchestrated. And if the darkness I'm in is divinely orchestrated, and I'm fighting against it, what am I using to fight against something that has been divinely orchestrated in my life? Because I know that from what my understanding of these spiritual things is that people who go through things to achieve greater understanding in those kind of things, to find deeper meaning, to be enlightened, whatever you want to call it, that go to that next level, right? It's not free, and it's not something that we can just like, oh, well, I'm gonna, you know, press X, Y, and Z and then this will happen. It's something that we get invited into, and then we have to just go through it. And the things that refine us, by the nature of being refined, are painful. And yeah, of course I could say I don't want to keep being refined, but then I'm not refined. I'm not done. I go back into the illusion, or I go, you know. And so I guess what I'm saying is the disillusionment is a sacred process also. Like, I'm only touching on it as like a, out here idea right now, because disillusionment is super deep and there's so many areas of our life that it's needed. And yeah, I'm kind of thinking about all these things, but it's like I can't condense them. And so I'm gonna have to come back to this topic or go into the so that's one of the things for me is I have a lot of tangential ideas, and so they get all mixed up and then I get confused. But I think I kind of made a point. Whether or not it was the point I set out to make, I do not know. But I think the disillusionment has its place. I don't think it's something to be afraid of. I think it's something to brace for, and I think that grief is something that we also have to embrace, even if it hurts. And I think that's the biggie, is like cultivating that patience in the pain. Like, because sometimes when we're hurting, we want to rush through it, and we want to get on the other side of that pain. But sometimes the pain is the healing. The pain is what is changing us. The pain is what's bringing change. And if we're constantly taking the control seat and being like, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing to bypass this pain, then we're not changing. Then we're keeping in the illusion, and we're not allowing the transformation process. Because most things in life, transitionally and all of that, like so many things, they do hurt. They're costly, and so at this point in time, being as costly as it is, it's something that if I try to bypass it every time this kind of thing happens, then it's going to just keep cycling back eventually, because the change needs to happen eventually. So I'm gonna sit in the well, and I'm gonna look up, and I'm gonna enjoy the view of the stars, and I'm gonna try and see what I'm supposed to see while I'm in the dark, and I'm gonna trust in the things that I've been shown when I was in the light while I'm sitting in the dark. And that's another biggie, is that what we're told in the light, and when we're hopeful and all of that, if it only holds true when we're in the light, then what value is it? Anyway, these are cool. All right, I'm gonna play with these for a little while, so I'm gonna stop this.